Good afternoon. All right, and again, good afternoon. Thank you. It is really good to see all of you here. It is, I have to say, something of a dark and dreary day, which is sort of perfect. It feels like it's the first Sunday of Advent. It's when we start moving and into the dark liturgically, and it feels like the weather just abided. So this feels right to me. Today we are talking about, well, we're celebrating Advent, and we're using the metaphor of the visitation, a story I'll tell you later. That is our central story for today, the story of the women meeting and greeting and loving each other. So let's begin with our chalice lighting. Can I ask you to rise in body and in spirit? And we're going to sing first our chalice lighting. The words to your chalice lighting are in your program. Please join me. We light this chalice, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in the community, and in the world.
Please join me for our statement of shared theology and intention. The words are in the program. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies humanity and peace, which in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community, unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. And now we greet each other on Sunday mornings, Sunday afternoons, as part of our liturgy. We turn to our neighbor, whether they are strangers or old friends, and we welcome them into our shared space. It's our way of saying that our spiritual path is communal, relational, and we are in this together. Not just friendly, but it's how we ground ourselves in this space with each other. I now invite you to greet your neighbors. Make that joyful noise. Let's greet our neighbors.
Yeah, I know.
As we get seated, let's get ready to rise in body or in spirit and sing This Little Light of Mine.
In a moment, I'll invite us all into a time of silence, knowing with all the wiggles and sneezes and coughs of the world, it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with us now in centering in this moment. God of darkness, we are so grateful for this glorious, delicious, beautiful world we live in. The shortening of the days give us cover, balcony us inside, provide a soft cloak for comfort and space for creative inspiration. We welcome the holiday season as it coaxes us toward joy and reminds us that hope is communal. God of winter, as your winds blow ever colder, we remember all those people who are living without shelter. There are thousands of people on our own city streets who are not welcome or are not safe, who are enduring the indignity of homelessness. There are thousands of refugees fleeing, thousands of people displaced from war, thousands of people who can't get their basic needs for food and water met, who can't keep their children safe, who are searching for a life they have not yet found. Keep them safe and help us all become active in creating a world where everyone has a home. God of changing seasons, we love so many people we are carrying with us. We hold in prayer the people of Vermont who are trying to recover from a hate crime against 3 Palestinians this week. May they and their families and all who know them and all who know the perpetrator find comfort and peace. We also hold in prayer George Martin, who has passed from this realm. May his memory be a blessing for all who love and miss him. For all these names spoken aloud and for all those that are written silently on the tablets of our hearts, we pray.
So I told you that the center of today's service is this story. The story is called The Visitation. Some of you may know it if you're Catholic. If you were raised Catholic, you may know it. Mary is a young woman. She's pregnant. She's about 3 months pregnant. And she learns that her cousin Elizabeth is also pregnant. Elizabeth is not such a young woman. Elizabeth had been trying to have children for a long time and hadn't ever gotten pregnant. They called her in Scripture an old woman. I suspect she was 32, 33 at the time. But she had never been pregnant and was now close to 9 months pregnant. And Mary loved her cousin and was afraid. Women died in childbirth. They did under the best of circumstances. They died from lack of blood, and it was more dangerous as you got older, and it was more dangerous if you were older and had never had a child. So Mary was concerned. Mary wanted to be with her cousin Elizabeth. So Mary went to Elizabeth's house. Now this is about 80 miles away, and she walked. Mary walked to Elizabeth's home. And she planned, and she did, stay there. She stayed for about 3 months. She stayed for the birth. She stayed to help take care of the new baby. But when she walks into the house, and she's pregnant, and her cousin is pregnant, they're so happy to see each other. And the story is that the baby that Elizabeth is carrying, who we later know to be John the Baptist, the baby leaps in joy, which is a way of saying everyone's happy Mary is here. But it was also a way of, these like miracle birth stories. They're told a lot. When you want to later say there was something special about a particular person, right? You're writing the stories after they die. You talk about miracle birth stories. So this is one of those times when even before Jesus is fully formed, the unborn child of his cousin knows who he is. But that's not really the point of the story. The point of the story really is Mary coming to see Elizabeth and spending 3 months with her cousin. When they first greet each other, and John kicks his mother, apparently pretty hard, that thousands of years later we're talking about it, they also embrace. And Elizabeth's so happy, they kiss each other, and Elizabeth says, "Blessed are you among women." And then they spend these next 3 months caring for each other. The story, for me, is so beautiful. First of all, it never needed to be mentioned, right? Most of the story, most of Jesus' life, Mary's life, is not told in Scripture. But they tell this one story, specifically about Mary and Elizabeth meeting each other, and then that there's 3 months of them being together. The story for me is a beginning of centering women and of talking about not the 2 male children, but about the 2 women who start together in love and that it's their love relationship that everything else is birthed from. So that's the story today that I've been holding. And I tell you, I've known the story a long time. And one of the reasons I know this story actually is because my mentor in college was a nun, and her order was founded on the story. Their founder worked with women who were trafficked. And she used the story as the beginning of her own ministry, as she was working with women, and she would visit. She would go and visit with the women, and she would befriend, and she would love them, and she would help them move into something else, starting with this story of Mary and Elizabeth, the visitation. When we enter each other's lives, when we start relationships in love, when we work together toward birthing something beautiful over and over in history, we change the world. We are going to sing People Look East. It is in your gray hymnal, no need to stand, but please join our choir, number 226.
There are many ways to be part of this community, many ways to explore, to rest, to be filled. We don't announce all the things happening on Sundays, but you can find a complete list on our website or in the flyer in the vestibule. This week, Jill Novensky is hosting our parent circle on Tuesday at 8 p.m. And Brother Zachary is hosting both his conversations on self-care on Monday and conversations on issues on Thursday evening. We also want to make sure that everyone knows that we are holding a memorial service for our longtime and beloved member, George Martin. It will be held here on Friday, December 15th at 11 a.m. Now our ushers are going to pass a plate. Your donations are very helpful to us right now as we live in limbo between entering a contract to sell our buildings and actually getting a check. Things are getting tight and every little bit helps. Of course, not everyone has a little extra right now, but if you do, we are grateful for your help. Thank you.
Today is the first Sunday of Advent. Advent is the Christian season that builds towards Christmas. So using the story of Mary's pregnancy, Christians relive those last few weeks expectant. The world gets dark and often cold. We move inside, we get cozy, we light fires, we wait for the birth of hope. This is the cycle. This is the story, the myth, the metaphor. Every year, 1 billion Christians and a whole lot of other people who can't resist themselves lean into this story. It begins today, the season of waiting. The church of my young adulthood moved services to the evening in Advent so that it was dark. Advent is about the dark. It's part of the metaphor. It's a reflection of the actual reduction of life 90% of the world's population is experiencing. It is dark. Mary is pregnant and she waits. We wait with her. We wait all month in a whole lot of cultural, communal ways. We have Christmas countdowns. We open daily Advent calendars. We recount all the stories about Mary. We talk about the suspense of pregnancy in our storytelling. We even make a huge deal out of Christmas Eve, so popular because it's the closest we can get to Christmas morning, the final moments of anticipation. And then there's Christmas, the birth of Jesus, of hope, of light, if you're willing to use light, dark metaphors, which generally I'm not, but do kind of pervade this time of year. It's the star song, the end of waiting, the meeting of the newborn, the shift into the new world, the end of what was and the beginning of what will be. The liturgical year ends and begins over and over again as we wait once again in the dark. That's it, every year. We wait, we count, we expect, we anticipate, we celebrate the birth until the next year when we wait again. And I'm going to be honest, I love this. It is my favorite season. I like Advent more than Christmas, maybe because I think it reflects our real lives more. Also because nothing can really live up to the hype of all the waiting. The waiting really is the best part, even with a child in the house, which I have, even with tons of gifts Christmas morning, even if we plan the perfect day, it'll never quite justify an entire month of buildup. But we're going to do this again next year anyway. In reality, the final weeks of pregnancy are alive with expectation, but the birth isn't one day. It's not even 12 days, as Christmas might be. It's forever. If you had a baby, it's a lifetime, but that's not how we celebrate this. We wake Christmas morning, celebrate the day, the birth of hope in the world, and then we sleep for a week, pack up, and go on with our lives. This is how you know the birth is a metaphor. There are no crying babies, no life-altering situations, nothing has changed. The season ends, we move on to what's next. In this case, the season isn't so much about Christmas, but about the weeks leading up to it. It's about Advent, about the season of anticipation, of preparation. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow in our real lives won't have much consequence, but we dedicate an entire month building up to this great reveal. I suggest we turn our attention to how we spend the Advent season, since this is, as far as I can tell, where hope really lives. In fact, while the last few weeks of pregnancy are about waiting, it's about a lot more than that. As anyone with 4 weeks left to give birth can tell you, it's about gestation. It's about creation. And that's what brings me to the visitation. Right? So Christmas is about the birth of Jesus. It's about the baby, and it moves from there. If you're Christian and going to live your life according to the teachings of Jesus, Christmas kicks things off. After the birth, the story really is about his life, his work, his death, the transformation of the world in response to his message. And those things are beautiful and worthy of our consideration, even our dedication. But in the very real lives of most UUs, in our shared spiritual practice, we don't spend much time after Christmas focusing on those things specifically. For us, the time spent during Advent is more relevant, more alive. What we do in the month of December, year after year, is more reflective than what we do on Christmas Day. The story of the visitation is a reflection of so much of the socializing we do this month. And this story recasts the star of the show. The visitation happening in this pregnant moment is about 2 women, more than 2 male children. It's about family and friendship and solidarity. It's about all the relationships that happened before, about all the people who make one life, Jesus' life in this case, who make that life possible and important. It's a moment in history when 2 women share their joy, their concerns, and they partner to move through the waiting, to move through the trepidation, to prioritize their bodies and their love for each other. A few years ago, a good friend of mine, her daughter-in-law was killed. She was shot by her own father in her own home. He then shot and killed himself. My friend's son was grieving. The whole family was grieving. My friend was holding all of them with so much of her own sadness. Because the death was violent and stunning, people really kept their distance from the family. Their own minister never even called. So I went to the house for a visit. I told my friend, I'm coming to sit. I said, we don't even need to talk. Like, she shouldn't cook, certainly don't clean anything. I'm coming to sit. And we did. We sat on the couch for a long time. She told stories. She cried. Mostly, though, she didn't move at all. She didn't speak very much. I made tea. She held the warm cup to her face and she breathed. I touched her hands. I kissed her head. And I sat. We sat and we waited as grief and fury moved through. It was a visitation. It was a holy time. In birth and in death, we visit. We meet each other in our joy and our grief. It is who we are. It is what we need. Now as much as ever, or maybe more than ever before. The Advent season is an invitation to visit. I'm spelling that with a capital V, visit. Be with each other. There is an end and a new beginning later, like all stories, a place we're heading, where the story will turn. But for now, we're waiting, and the waiting is holy. It's the in-between space where we create the world we're waiting for. It feels in some way like the whole world is waiting. Everywhere I go, people are talking about fascism, authoritarianism, climate disaster, the end of democracy, the rise of the right, the disintegration of the world as we know it. We don't seem to be preparing for something, though, as much as we are just waiting for it. We're waiting to see what the election cycle will bring. We're waiting to see if there will be accountability for trying to overthrow the government. We're waiting to see if our fellow countrymen care about the implications of the rhetoric of the day, or if they or we even understand it. There's a pall that's setting over the land, a sense of foreboding. I've been watching what's happening at the climate conference in Dubai, as world leaders, those who showed up, are making compromises that prioritize profit over planet and concede to concessions that are leading to our own destruction. Almost 30 years of United Nations climate conferences, and emissions are still rising, making 2023 the hottest year in human history. Fish in the Irish Sea are lifting their heads above the water so that they can get a break from the boiling sea. And we are watching them doing the equivalent of nothing. We are waiting. And here we are in Advent, the time of waiting, but also the time of gestation. This is not a time of passivity. Mary is creating a baby. Life happens in the dark. Worlds are conceived. There is no Christmas without Advent. There's no baby without pregnancy. It's now that the world is created, now that we are designing and building and producing hope. If this historical moment is fraught, if the world is hanging by a thread that seems ready to tear, then this isn't our time to do nothing. It's our time to visit. When people are feeling worried, when grief seems to be just over the horizon, we can use Mary and Elizabeth as our model. December is often a very social month, but I'm hearing reports that it doesn't feel that way to everyone this year. I don't know if that's true of all of you, but it's really a lot of what I have been hearing. I don't know how universal that is, or even why it might be happening. It could be a backlash from last year's feeling of liberation after two very tempered Christmas seasons, or if the pandemic broke so many of our social bonds, we're finding ourselves without all the invitations we used to have, or maybe saying no is more the new normal, creating greater isolation. But there seems to be less celebration in the holiday season this year. Do any of you feel that? You are feeling it. I mean, that's what I'm getting, right? It's just sort of not what it was. You too. It isn't what it was. And so I'm going to say, given that, it's time to visit. This is the hour of incubation, of construction, of creation, and we do that together. If we're going to give birth to a new world, if we're going to give life to hope, we're going to do it in community, in partnership. And please tell me we're going to do it in love. Mary brought nothing to Elizabeth but herself. I mean, Lord, she walked 80 miles, right? She's carrying like some clean underwear. That's about it. But what she brought is her love, her care, her concern. She offered her time, a sharing of her life. Elizabeth was in transition, pregnant, facing some level of danger, and Mary brought herself. That's what we have to offer. We bring ourselves to each other. Next week, Leslie Mackenzie had the lovely idea of having a birthday celebration for folks over the age of 90. We offer ourselves in celebration of life. Janice has started a new gathering some Sundays for caring and exploring in community. We offer ourselves in shared spirituality. When I hired Brother Zachary, I told him I'm looking for an Anamkara ministry, a ministry of spiritual presence, which he has so deftly embodied. We offer ourselves in spiritual companionship. When people are sick, Esther often brings them bone broth. We offer ourselves in healing. When a congregant had surgery last summer, a team accompanied her to appointments, assuring she wasn't alone in all the medical things she had to navigate. We offer ourselves in care. Brother Zachary and Reverend Jude have started a monthly brunch for people in their 30s and 40s. We offer ourselves in friendship. Our choir is open once a month to all the people who love to sing together, who then share and bring us beautiful music. We offer ourselves in joy. Our council will gather right after this service for some lunch and strategic planning. We offer ourselves in shared mission. And we visit. We visit each other in times of crisis, in times of celebration. We visit each other for fun and friendship, to aid in grief and loneliness. And we visit in love. Over and over again, we become the bodies of the visitation, the people of presence who are not just waiting, but who are gestating, who are creating a new world, the one that will be born of our love and companionship. This isn't about waiting passively for a single day of celebration, but about embodying the new world in all the days leading up to it. It's the designing and weaving, the sitting by warm fires, embraced by the comfort of darkness. It's incubation, it's gestation, and it's happening between and among us as we here together today are again part of the making of the holy ground on which we stand, ready with each other for our own visitation. Let's sing together number 224 in the gray hymnal. We're going to extinguish our chalice. The words are in your program. Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together. So our light goes out everywhere into the world. And together we're going to sing, O Come Emmanuel. If you would please rise in body or spirit.